So I've been asked many times, but I've been doing presentations, what is native science and what is it based on? I think Don and Joe gave me some glimpses into that kind of process, that kind of thinking, that kind of journey. Native science is a metaphor for native knowledge. It is the stories of the world that include creative ways for living and participating in relationship with the world through the processes for seeking life, relationship, and meaning. Seeking life, relationship, and meaning. Seeking life, relationship, and meaning. That's the focus. A multi-contextual system of thought, action, and orientation applied by an indigenous people through which they interpret how nature works in their place. In their place. And native knowledge is that high context body of knowledge built up over many generations by a culturally distinct people living in close contact with the place, its plants, its animals, its waters, and its deserts. And so that, in a sense, are the two knowledge systems, or the working of the indigenous knowledge system. And as you can see, we have many stories, as has been mentioned, about how that dancing towards the center and dancing back of the center happens, and how it is stored by different tribes in different kinds of ways, symbolized by art, symbolized by song, symbolized by dance, symbolized by story, and actually also symbolized by science, native science. Okay, so all of these things are happening simultaneously and have been happening, since the dawn of human time. So the modern worldview in Western science and business is first that focus, that axiology, is the human object. The highest value lies in the object or its acquisition. Essentially, is materialism. It's basically business for profit. Okay, business focused on the materiality of human life. The logic is cognitive. One knows through counting and measuring of the validity of both the theory that you're using and also its output, or its outcome. The way of process is dichotomous. So basically the idea that it's an either or and there's no in between. It erases the liminal space, essentially. There's no in between. There's no gray, if you will. And then finally, technology. All sets are repeatable and reproducible. If you analyze a Western higher education curriculum, this is basically what is valued. If you analyze a business proposition or a business acquisition or a business scenario, this is what is ultimately valued. If you analyze a political governance system in play today in the modern world, this is what really matters. And so the question that I have for you is, what if business and what if science were based on a relational worldview? How would business look? How would technology look? How would education look? How would society look? So a relational model for modern business, based on that indigenous worldview that I just showed you, first of all, would be life-oriented. The relationship of humans to the world would be the thing that would be focused on. And it is the thing that is focused on in indigenous worldview systems, because it's really the natural systems that perpetuate life, all life on Earth. Okay, so it's a very ecological view. The center, as you see there, is sustaining life and the health of humans in nature. Not humans apart from nature, but humans in nature. So what we call epistemology is coming to know and understand our communal relationship to each other and the natural world through observing, through doing, through making, through educating, through ceremony, and through celebration. The idea of interdependence of humans and human economics with the natural world, natural ecological systems of nature. And finally, the ultimate goal is striving to create an economic system predicated on achieving balance and harmony between human and natural ecology. Well, as it turns out, much of the work that a lot of Indigenous scholars are doing are really about how to bring together this Indigenous thought and perspective and worldview into, quote unquote, the modern world and into the Western world and into the Western worldview. Mm-hmm. And so what you have are many times what I call intractable conflicts, mm-hmm. where they just simply are seen to not mix, or in terms of Indigenous people's ideas, thoughts, perspectives are ignored most of the time when it comes to these kinds of technical understanding decisions of how things work in the world. But as it turns out, Western business and Western science, whether they know it or not, or especially whether they know that Indigenous people have always been doing this to some extent or another, are already moving into the direction, but unfortunately not including the Indigenous voice, not including Indigenous perspectives in the way that they view this, the stories that Joe and Don, represented and talked about. Aside from a context like this, I've really never heard outside rooms like this many times. And yet they need to be heard, and those voices need to